Good Shabbos. What you leave behind, your legacy, is not what is engraved in stone monuments, but rather what is woven into the lives of others. That's a famous quote from Pericles, a prominent and influential Greek statesman and orator of ancient Athens. And that quote about legacy has been on my mind this week, following the passing of Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sacks and Rabbi David Feinstein. Each of them leaves behind important legacies, and the Jewish world is measuring those great legacies on the very week that we read about Avraham establishing his legacy. Among the important tasks that Avraham must do in the final chapters of his life is acquiring a place to bury Sarah. Ramban and many others ask, why must Avraham purchase a land he was already promised? The Torah provides a very detailed and technical account of the purchase of Maras HaMachpelah and how that transaction was executed. But why was all that necessary? Why didn't Hashem make good on his promise and give him the land outright? Ramban suggests that this is a test, that Avraham is being challenged to acquire something for himself that he was already promised. And this test is meant to demonstrate a lesson to Avraham and to his descendants. The lesson was captured beautifully by Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sacks. In his book, A Letter in the Scroll, he meditates on a medrash that describes Avraham's faith in Hashem with a parable. The mashal goes, a man was traveling when he saw a palace in flames. The man wondered, is it possible that the palace has no owner? At that moment, the owner looks out from one of the windows of the palace and says, I am the owner of the palace. So it is with Avram Avinu, the Medrash comments, who looked at a world in flames and asked, is it possible that the world has no owner? HaKadosh Baruch Hu looks out a window and says to Avraham, I am the ruler, the sovereign of the universe. Rabbi Sacks notes that Avraham's faith in Hashem is reflected not by a declaration, not by an expression of certainty about God. Instead, the Medrash captures Avraham's faith, expresses it as a question. Is it possible that the palace in flames has no owner? Is it possible a world in flames has no creator? What Avraham teaches us is that faith is a protest against a world not living by the divine messages, by the Torah's values. Faith is the willingness to see the flames that symbolize evil, corruption, and injustice, and to not be complacent, but rather to speak out, to question, and more importantly, to act. Faith is the recognition that things are not as they ought to be, and that can change through our actions. Avram teaches us that to be a believing Jew, we must work to better the world that Hashem has bequeathed to us. And that is why Avram is forced to purchase a land Hashem had already promised him. Because, in the words of Rabbi Sacks, God promises, but we have to act. Hashem gives this land to Avraham and his descendants, but Avram had to acquire it first. Avraham has to act. Hashem gives an entire world to humanity. Hashem gives a small portion of it to the Jewish people, but we have to act to acquire and to earn them, to deserve them. This is the grand partnership between Hashem and humanity, and the specific partnership that the Jewish people have with Hashem. To question constantly about what ought to be, and to act on those questions to achieve it. Rabbi Sacks was one of those one-in-a-generation figures who saw this mandate clearly, who advocated for it courageously, eloquently, and with conviction. He wrote books such as The Dignity of Difference, The Home We Build Together, To Heal a Fractured World, and his final one, Morality, Restoring the Common Good in Divided Times. He wrote these books which all provide deep wisdom which can guide us through our turbulent times, how to act to achieve what ought to be. to continue his legacy, to continue learning from his important messages, to ensure his lessons are woven into the lives of others, is to honor his memory and legacy. Good Shabbos.